To the next topic of women in legislatures, we discuss this in the context of Miss Nemcha Kipgen becoming the first Deputy Chief Minister, women first Deputy Chief Minister of Manipur. It is giving us an opportunity to understand the issue of representation of women in legislatures across the state as well as the central legislature, which is Parliament of India, and how is it faring compared to the other peers, other nations, and what more things that we can do to enhance their representation as well as enhance women leadership at the helm of the nation. If we understand about the fact of the matter, what exactly is the status of women representation in the parliament today? As of the 18 Lok Sabha, we have 74 women MPs who have got elected to the Lok Sabha. It is actually a decline from the previous 70th Lok Sabha, where we had around 78 members. So the number revolves around the 14%. Now it is 13.6. Earlier it used to be 14.2% of the total membership of Lok Sabha is given by women. But even that is not as bad as the situation there is in the states. You see the average percentage of women legislature in the state is around 8%. There are certain exceptions, of course. We have Tripura, which has around 15% of the legislature. 9 out of the 60 MLA that they have in Tripura are female. But then there are other backbenchers also. We have Nagaland, which in the year 2023 for the first time elected 2 women MLAs. Imagine the plight of history when in the year 1926 we had the first woman MLA in India, who was Miss Muthulakshmi Reddy. She was the first person who got become an MLA in India. She was elected from the Madras Legislative Council, Madras Legislative Assembly. That was 1927. They are making for the first time MLAs in 2023. 100 years have around passed, but still women representation has not taken up the stage that it should have. And compared to the global PSCPC, USA has around 29% of women as the legislatures. 46% of all the MPs in South Africa are women. 35% of all MPs in UK are women. But compare that to India, it is around 13.6%. Dismal figures. But we understand that it is not that we started bad. We started with 15 members of the Constituent Assembly being women. We elected our first Chief Minister back in the year 1963 by Ms. Sucheta Kriplani. So we started on an optimistic note, but we have not reached where we should have. And why does these numbers even matter? Why does this percentage matter? Because it is not just about representation, it is about leadership also. If we see that if we are not allowing at least 50% of women at the central leadership, at the leadership in the legislature, we are violating the natural law, because they constitute around 50% of the population. They are not being given the natural and substantial rights, which is also dignified under the Article 15, which prevents the state from discriminating against any person on the basis of race, religion, caste, sex or place of birth. Gender here is actually one of the cause that they are not being allowed to become the member of parliament or member of legislative assembly, it seems, because the numbers showcase so. Then we are not able to see a major rise in our global development indices because of our dismal performance on these index. For example, if you take the case of Global Gender Gap Index released by World Economic Forum, India ranks at a dismal 131 out of 148 countries. We have even fallen back from 129 that we ranked last year. And why so? If we understand the 4 parameters of Global Gender Gap Index, at economic participation we are doing at least on par. We have 37% of female labor force participation. Educational attainment, we have rising gross enrollment ratio. Health and survival, we have declining maternal mortality rate, rising life expectancy. We are doing fine here. But what about this political empowerment? We are clearly not, and that is reflecting in our position in the Global Gender Gap Index. If we are going to improve this, if we are raise the number of political empowerment of women, if we raise the number of elected legislators, we are going to see improvement in these ranking also. And it is argued that it would also cleanse the political system. I am not being misogynist here, I am not being stereotyping women, but statistically data has showcased that women candidates have lower criminal charges, women candidates are less likely to be involved in money muscle politics. So if we have more number of such women MLAs, the political system of our country would also improve. As of now, we have around 46% of the MPs who are sitting in Lok Sabha, they have criminal charges against them. Once the proportion of women MPs or MLAs increases, this proportion of criminalization of politics is likely to get reduced. And there are other significant reasons for enhancing women leadership. If we talk about, we are discussing here women leadership and not just representation. We are not just concerned with how many people sit there, as how many women sit there in the legislature, but also what changes do they bring to the society. If we see empirical evidence of it, Miss Esther Duflo, who was a Nobel laureate, and she did a study in the year 2004 where she found out that wherever women were in the leadership, they allocated more money on water and education. It led to better outcome for girls and women in the society in general. It enhanced the outcomes, learning outcomes of education. It enhanced the implementation of this scheme. We have examples from our country as well. Ms. Chavi Rajawat, who is renowned as a person who brought transformative change in her village constituency from where she was elected as a sarpanch. She brought transformative change in the social indicators there. Then we are supposed to have greater gender sensitive policies, for example issues relating to maternal health, nutrition, for example medical termination of pregnancy act. If these laws are to be reformed, it is necessary by ethics and morality that we take the case from the women itself. We ask for their views about it, and if women are formulating such policies regarding such crucial method, it is going to be have more better impact at the implementation level as well. Economic empowerment of women is also one of the probable outcomes of greater political leadership, because women who are elected as MPs, MLAs, minister, cabinet rankings, chief ministers, they would empower other women to aspire higher. They would empower greater participation of women in the economic life, a greater labor force participation, and bring more GDP growth to our country. And then above all, compassionate governance is what we expect when women is at the helm of the leadership. And it is not me arguing that. The incoming Deputy Chief Minister of Manipur, she has to say that women in general are caregiver by nature. A caring mother nurtures a peaceful home, and from that foundation, peaceful communities and societies are built. She says it in the context of Manipur, which has been reeling under the pressure of a conflict between Kuki and Meitei community. And we saw this happening in the past as well. When Miss Jacinda Ardern, she was the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and Christchurch attack happened in a mosque. She went herself to console the victims, and the victims had to say about her that her tears were real. That leads to showcasing a strength of solidarity that a state would be showcasing towards the victim of any hate crime. They showcase that states full strength stand beside these victims, whatever religion they belong to, whatever community they belong to, and this was possible because of women at the helm of the leadership. And this is one classical case that you can cite whenever you want to argue about women's role in leadership. Then we can have social and long-term changes out of this greater participation of women at the political level. We are going to have greater social impact. We are going to have intergenerational changes. For example, the first thing that come to your mind whenever we say the word Netaji is the image of a politician like this. But why does it not become Netri Ji, which is basically a woman leader? If we are going to have more women as the political leaders, we would normalize the term of use Netri Ji rather than just Netaji, who is just always a man with a moustache, always folded hands. We could always have women leaders like Miss Jacinda Ardern as well. That is the idea of why we need women at the helm of the leadership. Government is also cognizant of it. We all know that there have been certain steps we have taken over the time period. We have 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, which brought 33% reservation for women at the local level, panchayats as well as urban local bodies. And we have had state legislature who have gone beyond this mandatory 33%. They have enhanced the participation of women to even 50%. Bihar has already done that. We have 106th Constitutional Amendment Act, which is Nari, Shakti, Vandan, Adhiniyam, which has brought 33% reservation at the level of state legislature, at the level of Lok Sabha, as well as at the level of Union Territory of Delhi. Why is this necessary? Because organically we see our ratio of women participation has been around 5%, 10%, and right now till around 14%, a very gradual change. We need a leap of faith to reach to this level of 33%, and thus these legal changes are being formulated. What are the provisions of this Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam? We need to see that because already a question in prelims has been asked about it. They say that there is a sunset clause which is valid for 15 years. It is just starting as a reservation policy for 15 years. Of course, it can be extended by the parliament later on. There is supposed to be a periodical rotation of the representation of women. So it would be changing on the basis of delimitation exercises, and it would be applicable after the next census is conducted after the year 2028. On the basis of that, if you try to solve this question says that provision will come into effect from the 18th Lok Sabha. It will not. So once we eliminate that, we arrive at the right option of C. But we understand that we talked about that it is just a legal change, and we are yet to see remarkable result from it because it is an exercise destined for the future. What more do we need to do? Because there are certainly challenges with this approach. they are challenging in enhancing women leadership by solely saying this legal approach. We have seen case that we are just talking about giving them ticket, but are we working on their winnability as well? Are we doing the capacity building of these women leadership once they become the neta and the ministers and the MLAs? Would they able to ensure good governance so that people vote them again? We have a lot of work to do there. Then it might reinforce the stereotype that women are just being made the candidate for the election not on the basis of their merit but because of a reservation system. It might rather, instead of solving the cause of women, it might rather reinforce the stereotype. We have seen that there women as a group is non-homogeneous. Not all of the women are as vulnerable as the other. Not all of the women are as lucky as the other. We saw Miss Rabdi Devi becoming the Chief Minister of Bihar not solely because she was a good leader but because she happened to be a wife of another famous person. Then how can one expect other women who come from much lower caste, who come from much lower socio-economic section of the society, would they be in the same pedestal as these dynast politics? It might not be. So we have to work on the capacity building of women so that they are able to ensure the social change that we are seeking. We have issue of unaddressed state disparity. As per this law, there has to be a limit of 33% minimum Lok Sabha members should be women, but it does not address the cause of the issue of interstate disparity. As we saw the case of Tripura versus Nagaland, they have 9 MLAs, they have only for the first time had two MLAs as women. The interstate disparity is not going to be solved by this proposed mechanism. We are also very aware of the Vidhayak Pati phenomena that we could see. Right now we have Sarpanch Pati, where the husband of the elected Sarpanch, who happened to be a woman, her husband would be taking the oath of office as well as doing all the necessary formal work, where the woman who is actually elected, she would be a mere rubber stamp. The Vidhayak Pati or Sansad Pati is another phenomena that we see in the offing once this reservation is implemented as the only way of empowering women. We also have to understand that it is just catering to the Lok Sabha as well as State Legislative Assembly. What about the upper house? What about the Council of State? Rajya Sabha also has lower participation of women, around 15% only. Geeta Mukherjee committee, which was set up to address the issue of women leadership, they had actually recommended for a reservation for women in Rajya Sabha, and that is something that we have still yet to do. Also, we saw it opens another window of dynasty polity as well. I have already discussed it. Now, what to do about it then? What is the way forward to solve the issue of lack of women leadership? First of all, we have to, rather than going for a top-down approach where we are directing to elect more women MLAs, MPs, we are rather supposed to work from the bottom-up approach where we are directing the parties that they should themselves give ticket to more women who would be winning on their own merit and solve the issue of crisis. We have seen this happening in the case of Biju Janata Dal of Odisha as well as TMC, where in case of Biju Janata Dal in Odisha, they gave more tickets to women, and the proportion of women MLAs and MPs that they elected was more than 35%. It was an organic method. It was based on the merit of those legislatures, and they would work very hard to get the blessing of the voters again. And this would be an organic method of development of leadership. Then we have to reduce barriers to the politics. As NN Vohra committee also highlighted that there is the issue of criminalization of politics. We have read a greater use of muscle and money power, which are leading to the winnability of those candidates. If these barriers to the politics are reduced by the method of, let's say, state funding of election, as suggested by Goswami committee already, then we would have more chances of women getting elected. Then we have to bring the social change, that we as voter also are valuing the person who is actually doing the developmental politics. For example, we have greater expectation, greater acceptance of the work. We saw Miss Supriya Sule, who is an MP from Maharashtra, Baramati. She was actually won the best parliamentarian award. Because of these reasons, they should be elected the leaders again, not because which party does she belong to, which caste does she belong to, which dynasty or which house does she belong to, rather on the basis of her effort within the constituency, within the parliament. And to solve this issue of lack of democratic approach in promoting representation of women by just reservation, we can have a pilot project whereby we can have dual member constituency. Earlier, the choice of the voter would be restricted if we reserve a constituency solely for the women. We can have a pilot project where 2 members could be elected from one constituency, and if that pilot project works, we can extend that to the national level. We can take cue from the global best practices. For example, nations of Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Norway, they have 45% representation of women in their parliament, not because they have reservation in the parliament, rather they have something known as a legal quota within the political parties, that parties are by law directed that they have to give these many amount of tickets to the elected women candidates. So that might work in the top down, in the bottom up approach, as we discussed. And out of all, we have to fast track the implementation of the law that we are implementing, the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. It should be fast tracked by soon conducting the census that we are about to do. By taking these steps, we were poised to enhance the gender equity in our parliaments as well as state legislature, and we can become a more gender just society as envisaged by our founding mothers of our constitution. We have this practice question for you that you can practice and get it evaluated from your mentors.